Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to have uncomfortable conversations. Uncomfortable conversations about one Nikola Jokic. As Legend of Winning makes a video called Why Nikola Jokic is the greatest offensive player of all time. Very, very lofty statement, very bold statement. Got a 19 video ahead of us. Links to his video will always be in the description. Let's get it started. That's a take. That's a take right there.
When you mentioned Jokic, 32 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 0 turnovers. He's so smart, Bob.
Now listen, if Jokic wins the MVP, I would not be disappointed because, like I said, he is the best NBA player because he has no flaws.
It's kind of obvious considering his credentials, two-time MVP, Finals MVP, coming off the championship. But how did Jokic take over tonight's game?
Same way he takes over every game.
So here we are at the end of another regular season, and once more Jokic has again put on a display of offensive greatness that is honestly hard for anyone in NBA history to rival or duplicate. As the two-time MVP finished the season averaging 26 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists with a steal and a block, shooting splits of 58, 36, and 82, which resulted in a true shooting percentage of 65%, which is not only noticeably higher above league average.
Can we just hold on. Look at the stat line, y'all, and just close your eyes, man. I understand this might be a flawed test to do, okay? Hold on. Jesus Christ. Where is this goddamn graphic? Thank you. Bro, if I told you, close your eyes, LeBron James averaged 26, 13, and 9 on 58, 36, 82 splits, y'all would be nutting your pants. No, all Diddy, actually. Y'all be nutting your pants. Obviously, you know, the defense doesn't show up in this stat sheet. But even if the defense really wasn't there, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's say 2020. 2020, LeBron was still good defensively, but not like a defensive juggernaut. Or hell, even this year. Fuck it. This year. Come on, bruh.
Not only noticeably higher above league average, but makes Jokic the most efficient volume scorer in the NBA this season. The Joker also led the NBA in practically every advanced analytics, PER, VORP, offensive box score, and everything else in between. And by many people's accounts, it seems like he's going to be walking into his third MVP within a 4-year period. And if the big fella is able to accomplish that, then that means that he will be in a conversation with a very exclusive select few throughout the history of the NBA. And while being in that conversation, this doesn't even take into consideration all of the other great statistical feats that Jokic has been able to accomplish within this same time frame. As the historic stat sheet stuffer has been able to climb the triple-double ladder faster than anyone not named Oscar Robertson or Russell Westbrook. In last year's playoffs, he became the first player in NBA history to lead the playoffs in total points, rebounds, and assists. He's led the NBA in practically every advanced analytic every single season over the last 4 years. And just offensively speaking, it seems as if like Jokic is unstoppable to defend. The compilations of passes and marriage with the high efficiency in scoring, the overwhelming dominance due to his size and stature, and the skills that go along with it that makes Jokic a one-of-one player. And it's been so overwhelmingly great and dominant that it has forced me to stop and ask myself, why is Jokic so unstoppable? Is this not one of the greatest offensive peaks in NBA history? And honestly, the more I thought about it, it made it pretty easy for me to make the argument that Jokic will go down as the greatest offensive player ever. First, let's talk about scoring. Not only because it's the most—
That is a lofty statement. And hey, Low looks like he's about to put on a masterclass. But just off rip, is he the greatest offensive player ever? I do think he has a stronger case than a lot of people make it out to be. Because when it comes to offensive weapons in NBA history, what is Jokic's weakness? He can play make, he can operate out the post, he can operate out in the perimeter. He's efficient as shit, historically speaking. He scores at high volumes. He raises his play in the playoffs. You can't say he doesn't really have a bag, but honestly, he also has consistent moves. He always makes the right reads. He doesn't turn the ball over that much. I don't know. The greatest offensive player of all time. I wanna shout out a LeBron James in this discussion. I wanna shout out a Michael Jordan in this discussion. It's just a weird conversation to have because the arguments that you would have for Jokic, you can't really have for a Michael Jordan or a LeBron James and vice versa because they play two different positions with two different roles. You know what I'm saying? So if I tell you that Michael Jordan is a much better slasher than Nikola Jokic, then I would just hope so because he's operating out in the perimeter and just has way more opportunities to slash to the basket as opposed to a dude who operates. One, doesn't bring the ball up as much as a Michael Jordan or as a LeBron James. And number two, operates in the post at the free throw line, and that's where he starts his action. Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? And vice versa. Like, if I bring up offensive rebounding or some shit, like, I would hope a 7-foot center that averages 14 rebounds a game is a better offensive rebounder than LeBron and Mike, you know? So, I don't know.
Sexy as part of offense, but more importantly, when it comes to Jokic, I feel like he is the most underrated scorer of his generation. Because though he is synonymous with his passing, the 7-foot bucket getter could easily go down as not only one of the best who ever done it of his generation, but arguably one of the greatest scorers the league has ever seen as well. Over the past 3 seasons, the Joker is averaging 26 points per game. That level of volume is being seen this season as well, and he peaked with his volume in the 2022 campaign when he averaged 27. Now, to be fair to the field, that level of volume honestly isn't all that impressive when you compare it in today's NBA. However, what Jokic lacks in volume, he certainly picks it up in efficiency, as he has shooting splits of 59, 36.5, and 83, which not only, again, those shooting splits numbers are very similar to what we're seeing from him this season, but also in the 3 prior seasons. This all translates to a true shooting percentage of nearly 67%, which is the highest true shooting of all volume scorers in the NBA within the same time frame. And if you're still tripping about the volume, well, in the playoffs, when it matters the most, Jokic's production goes up to 30 points per game with a true shooting percentage of 62%. And outside of Kawhi, and my goodness, Kawhi as a scorer in the postseason is ridiculous. We have been robbed of so many great playoff runs that Kawhi could have given us. It's a shame. But hey, that's another video for another day. But
I think the counter arguments to Jokic, now that I'm really thinking about it, you would have to bring up skill and versatility. Because I do think you can name a lot of players who are more versatile scorers than Jokic. And if you really value that, then that would be the case. The case for Jokic is definitely an analytical efficiency production standpoint. If you're the fuck analytics, let's talk about hoops for real type of dude, then you'll definitely hate this take. But for me, I'll always stand on this. I care about production at the end of the day. At the end of the day, when we take the ball up, the point of that possession is to score. The goal of that possession is to score. And if there is a player out there who can produce scoring production at high volumes, at efficient rates, and that does not drop off in the playoffs, and if anything increases in the playoffs, that's really all I care about. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like if I can get 30 points from this dude on, let's just say, 70% true shooting, but this other dude is giving me 33 on 58% true shooting, I'm taking this dude. I don't give a fuck what this dude's bag is. If this dude can produce even lower volumes but at higher efficiency rates, you know what I'm saying? Or let's just say equivalent volumes, but this person is just way more efficient. Like I don't give a shit what your bag is, especially if, again, in the playoffs, this player doesn't drop off. If in the playoffs, this player stays the same, if not increases, then at that point, what the fuck is the point of the bag talk? Who cares? Get a bucket. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's so weird to me because these same dudes are the same people that always talk about, man, the game is about a bucket. Yeah, it is about a bucket. Who can get you a bucket more efficiently? Fuck all these dribbles. Fuck all these moves. If you can get me a bucket within 2 dribbles, if you can get me a bucket with no dribbles, let's do it. Let's do it.
But outside of Kawhi, ain't nobody really touching Jokic. And the crazy part about all of this is that even with all of that information, it still doesn't even include the 2 biggest reasons why I believe that Jokic is one of the greatest scorers the league has ever seen. Now, what are those reasonings, you may be asking? Well, first is what we just saw from the Joker last year, where he averaged 24.5 points on a staggering league-high true shooting percentage of 70.1%. This mark was not only the highest in the NBA amongst all players last year, but also this is the highest true shooting that we've ever seen from any volume scorer ever. So you very well could make the argument that last season Nikola Jokic was the most efficient volume scorer the league has ever seen. Now, of course, I wouldn't be so silly to just make a statement like that blindly without any context. Of course, in today's game, the level of scoring efficiency is the highest it's ever been, in large part due to the level of spacing and three-point shooting. And if you
I just think to be in this conversation about the greatest offensive player of all time, you gotta be an efficient. First, it's kind of like a two-way argument, right? Because within offense, I think the two biggest components are scoring and passing in the grand scheme of things. If you're an efficient volume scorer and an elite passer, that all coincides with playmaking too. But if you're a great volume, if you're an efficient volume scorer and an elite passer, that is the recipe for success to be becoming one of the greatest offensive weapons of all time. I do think something that goes underrated in this discussion, though, is off-ball movement. And I will say, again, it's kind of like a roles conversation here because, again, Jokic is a center. How much off-ball action do you want from your center? Do you want him out in the perimeter or banging out down low offensively, especially given his skill set? But off-ball, I do think LeBron is better. Off-ball, I do think Jordan is better. If we want to bring up Steph Curry, I do think Steph Curry is miles better than Jokic off-ball. I would even put KD in that discussion as well, coming off pin downs. So, but I can't lie, Jokic is in the conversation. Jokic is definitely in the conversation. Luka is definitely making a case to be in the conversation as well.
Let the old heads tell you, also because of the lack of defense. So of course it will be very irresponsible of me if I just took a player's true shooting percentage and just blindly compare it to other players across other generations and eras. And because of this, the more responsible way to look at it is to compare one's relative true shooting percentage. For those who are unaware, relative true shooting percentage is essentially just comparing one's true shooting percentage in contrast to what the league average is that season. So if the league average true shooting is 55% and a player has a true shooting percentage of 53%, that means their relative true shooting would be -2. But if one's true shooting percentage was 58.5%, that means their relative true shooting would be +3.5. And when it comes to most great volume scorers throughout NBA history, normally at their best, their relative true shooting percentage would fall somewhere between +3 to +8%. But every now and then you do have an anomaly. A player who is noticeably above league average to the point where their true shooting starts to reach the realm of being 10% higher than what the league average is. And when you start to get in those conversations is when things really start to become historic. Players such as Adrian Dantley, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Reggie Miller, LeBron James, oddly enough, Peja Stojakovic, Kevin McHale, Charles Barkley, Stephen Curry, and yes, Nikola Jokic. Because last season, having a true shooting percentage of 70.1 meant that Jokic's true shooting percentage was 12% higher than league average, giving him the 5th highest relative true shooting percentage since the NBA.
That boy Chuck though, look at Sir Charles. Look at Sir Charles. Oh my goodness.
Introduced the three-point line. Now, as we stop and just marvel at this list of volume and efficiency, I have to point out a few things. First, shout out to Charles Barkley, man. I was definitely surprised to see his name this often on this list. Also, what Curry did in 2016 certainly goes under the radar from a scoring perspective, as he not only,
especially given the shot Steph was taking that year, dog. Like, it'd be one thing if this was all sky hooks. Boy, nah. If you watch 2016 Steph, this isn't just some easy. Motherfucker was putting it from 30 off the dribble consistently, night in, night out. Like,
led the league in scoring, but also led the league in true shooting percentage that season.
Always
but more importantly, what I want to point out in this list is how a lot of these players actually score the basketball. See, most volume scorers optimize their level of efficiency by maximizing their volume in the 3 most efficient areas on the floor to score from: layups and dunks at the rim, 3-point shooting, and of course, getting to the charity stripe. And when you look at this list of players, you can see a lot of that being outlined. However, when it comes to Jokic, he's not only the odd man out, but he actually does the opposite. As over the past 3 years, Jokic only gets to the free throw line roughly 5 to 6 times a game. He only attempts 3 3-pointers, and though he does get a healthy amount of shots at the basket, it still doesn't take up majority of his shot selection diet. Now, don't get me wrong, Jokic is not bad in any of these areas by any comprehension. He's converting his free throws at a 85% clip, shooting 36.5% from behind the arc. And yes, taking into consideration the level of volume and accuracy, when it comes to finishing around the rim, thanks to his great touch, footwork, and just being able to overwhelm most defenders, the Joker has undeniably been one of the best finishers in the NBA, as he's converting his shots at the rim at roughly 70 to 71% of the time, which means that he's about 7% higher than league average. But again, this still isn't where most of his shots are made up from, because despite what all analytics has told us, Jokic has actually found a way to be the most efficient volume scorer over the past 3 seasons, peak at heights in which we've never seen before, while most of his shots are being taken in the least efficient areas on the floor. On his mid-range jump shots, Jokic is converting them at a clip around 51 to 53%. And though the volume has decreased over time, even back in 2021 when he was attempting a respectable amount, he was not only converting them at 51.5%, but more importantly, this translated to be 10% higher than league average, which basically has been consistent over the past 3 seasons. But what is really mind-blowing is what Jokic does in the paint outside of the restricted area. As he not only takes an uncanny amount of shots in this area, leading the NBA in this range, but what really blew me away is that in the lane outside of the restricted area, the league average in the past
this is a side note, bro, but I just whenever I see floaters now, I just remember that quote of Doc Rivers. I believe it was Doc Rivers saying like, "Yo, back in my day, if you shot a floater, you would have got benched." And now we're seeing like everyone got a floater, and if anything, if you don't got a floater in your game, it's like, damn, you're fucking ass. You don't got a floater in your game?
3 seasons is roughly around 43%, while Jokic in this same time frame is converting these shots at a staggering 60%. And yes, your calculations are correct. Over the last 3 seasons, Jokic has been 16 to 17% higher than league average, where in particular in the 2022 and the 2023 campaign, he was a whopping 18% higher than the rest of the NBA. And be very mindful that most of the shots that Jokic takes in this area are not quality looks. A lot of them are actually improvised floaters that Jokic is forced to take. But why all of this matters is because if you look at Jokic's middies and his shots in the paint outside of the restricted area, combine them together, you would see that that level of volume is not only the largest for Jokic, but more importantly, he converts those shots at roughly 59%, which means that he is so accurate that he's actually turning inefficient shots into some of the most efficient looks in the NBA over the past 3 seasons. And oh yes, another huge reason why he's such a great scorer is because how much pressure he puts on the defense with his passing ability. Now, I don't think I have to do that much explaining on how Jokic is one of the greatest passers the league has ever seen. It's still very cringeworthy when people try to put prerequisites around his passing ability by labeling him the greatest passing big man ever. But beyond the select few, it is pretty undeniable that the Serbian passing savant is one of the best who ever done it, and the numbers back this up as well. As over the past few years, Jokic's assist numbers have slowly creeped to near double-digit figures while only turning the ball over 3 times a game. And though these numbers aren't as gaudy as Magic Johnson and John Stockton, it is still pretty impressive when you put into context the level of offensive responsibility he has, because I promise you it's going to be really hard to find a player throughout NBA history that's going to provide you with 25 points, 9 assists, while basically only making 3 mistakes on a game-to-game basis. But as many of you all are aware, I am a huge believer that more assists does not equate to better passer. And the reason for this is because assist numbers are heavily dependent in the system in which you play in, as it is practically impossible to record a ridiculous amount of assists without being ball dominant and being on a team where you have to pick.
But with Jokic though, you just gotta watch him. I ain't gonna lie, like it does not take rocket science. Just watch like 3 Jokic games, and you will see the passes that he gets off. It's on some like, how the fuck did you even see that pocket? How the fuck did you? Nah, no way. You just whipped it cross court like that, like it was fucking nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if we take the eye test, not the eye test. Even if we take these analytical ass arguments away, literally just watch him play, bro. On the court with LeBron James, which is, he's also respectively one of the greatest passers of all time. And you would not know who is the better passer between the two. You would not. And I would even bet if you just, again, take the scoreboard out of it, you don't got access to ESPN, you don't got access to the NBA app. You don't know what these players statistically, historically are. You just watch current LeBron and current Jokic. Hell, even Luka. Because if you think LeBron is not the passer that he used to be, fine because of his role. If you watch Luka, if you watch Tyrese, if you watch any of these Trae Young top tier passers, you would at the very least think that they're on the same tier. That's how good of a passer Jokic is, bro. That's how great of a passer Jokic is.
Pick up a facilitator role. A great example of this is LeBron. Back in 2019, his assist numbers were roughly 8 a game. Then in 2020, he led the NBA in assists with 10 a game. Then in 2021, it went back down to only 8. Now, do any of us believe that in year 17, LeBron became a miraculously better passer and then a worse one within a matter of 18 months? Or was he just on a team that lacked the point guard, so he had to pick up a different role, which then increased his assist numbers? Yeah, we all know that it's the latter. And this is something that can honestly be seen throughout NBA history. Players become more ball dominant, thus their assist numbers tend to go up. However, when it comes to Jokic, he somehow breaks that mold, as over the past couple of years, his assist numbers gone up. However, he still is nowhere near as ball dominant as other great passers in the NBA. It's just last year, if you look at Jokic's time of possession in contrast to other players who recorded similar assist numbers, you will be able to see that his time of possession is practically half of his passing peers, which is insane. But the reason why he's able to do this is because how quickly he processes the defense. See, most players are reactionary passers. They see what the defense does first, then react accordingly with the most appropriate pass. But when you're dealing with a player with a very high IQ like Nikola Jokic, he is an anticipatory passer, meaning that he anticipates what the defense does before they actually do it, and that's how you get passes like this.
Oh, Jokic.
Or this.
2 steps ahead.
Jokic underneath the Porter.
Or even this.
It's by 15. Jokic behind the back.
Sprinkle in the degree of difficulty in the various ways of passing, and even with assist numbers that may be underwhelming to other all-time greats, it is still very clear that Jokic is one of the greatest passers the league has ever seen. And that
I'm gonna say this because as I'm watching this video, I've just been thinking about like who really is the greatest offensive player of all time. I think Jokic definitely has a case, and Lowe is definitely making it. But I think there are great scorers. There are great passers. There are great off-ball players as well. I think to be the greatest offensive player of all time, there are you can be those 3 things on an individual basis. But I think there is one that honestly checks off all the boxes, and I think one only. And I think that's LeBron. I think that's LeBron. Great scorer, great passer, great off the ball. That's LeBron. You know what I'm saying? I think the differentiator between LeBron and Jokic is just the off-ball movement to me. And again, that just may be a role thing. But I think if I just had to put a nail on it, I would still say the greatest offensive player of all time is LeBron. Followed by Jokic and Steph. Jokic and Steph is up there. It's up there. Cause I'm just thinking, like, I understand. Shout out to a Kobe Bryant. Shout out to Michael Jordan. Kareem is in this discussion. Kevin Durant is in this discussion as well. But I'm just thinking about, there are, because the names I just mentioned, great volume scorers. I can't even say that they can't pass. But I'm just saying there are certain people who can also score at high volumes efficiently, which I do think is part of being a great scorer, is scoring efficiently. That can score at high volumes while still being a great passer, while still being great off ball. And I think the only one that checks off those boxes at the highest levels is LeBron. Jokic, great scorer, great passer, not great off ball. Steph Curry, great scorer, great off ball, not a great passer. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jordan, great scorer, great off ball, not a great passer. KD, great scorer, good to great off ball, not a great passer. You know what I'm saying? Kobe, great scorer. I'd say good off ball. I want to say great off ball. If you want to say he's great off ball, fine. Not a great passer. It just, I would still go LeBron.
Last part is very, very important because the
And
ability.
as Mickey as it sounds, the fact that LeBron has done it in different generations as well, I'm a make that as part of LeBron's argument as well. To be great offensively in the 2000s, in the 2010s, in the 2020s, with the way the game has evolved, for you to be great. I do believe all these players that I'm talking about will be great regardless, but just actually seeing it tangibly, I'm gonna count that towards LeBron. I ain't gonna lie.
The ability to make high leverage passes is not only a huge contributor to how impactful and effective Jokic is as a scorer, but it also puts this offensive juggernaut into territory of being impossible to defend. Full court lobs.
Rebound for Jokic. Long pass. Gordon's out there. And he puts it away. Wow.
Transition bounce passes.
Keith on the... Oh! What a pass to KCP.
And no-look passes out of the post to the inside hand, so only Aaron Gordon can get the ball and no one else. The practical use of being able to make passes like these essentially.
Also, going back to LeBron, just his offensive versatility of being able to put him in any position. If you want him to be a scorer, he can do that. If you want him to be a point guard, he can do that. He can be a good screener as well because of his frame. I would lean towards LeBron. I ain't gonna lie.
Means that it doesn't matter where Jokic is on the floor or what situation he is in, finding an open teammate is literally just one pass away. And with Jokic's ability to make these type of reads, it means that even double teaming him is practically pointless. If the double team comes from the weak side and Jokic is being doubled in the post, there's now two players being left open on the weak side, which then leaves the lone defender to try to make a decision on who are they going to guard. As the elevated player dives to the basket, one would assume that Jokic being doubled would only be able to make that type of a read. But here he is making a one-arm bounce skip pass that is type roping the baseline to an open shooter. And here we are the next possession, and the defense defends him the exact same way. You have to double team him because he's a great post scorer, leaving the weak side defender to make a decision on who he's going to defend. Jokic then jumps up and winds his arm back, and it seems as if like he's going to make another skip pass to the corner shooter, but instead he just lightly delivers the ball to the cutting teammate for an open dunk. And because of this level of passing ability in marriage with the level of volume that we see from a scoring standpoint that peaks at all-time great efficiency, it does beg the question, how do you stop Jokic? Be very mindful that we're this deep into the video and I haven't even talked about some of the small little nuances about offense as well. Jokic is an extremely great offensive rebounder. He moves off the ball well, repositioning himself to give easy looks to his teammates, and nearly 7 feet tall, he's nearly as coordinated as a guard, so he can.
Let me make it clear too, before y'all get at me in the comment section, I'm not saying that Jokic is bad off ball. Not saying that. I'm just saying there's levels to this.
Actually put the ball on the deck and make certain reads, which then gives him the ability to be a ball handler and pick and rolls. As a passing center, he can organize the offense at the top of the break, which then means that the player who's defending him, the opposing team's big man, is now removed from the lane, effectively meaning that the defense no longer has any backline help, which then means the paint is always open for any cutting player, which essentially just means easy points for the Nuggets. And with his wide frame, getting around screens are practically impossible, so now his teammates are basically just walking into open looks. And even if the big dare to think about switching on the guard coming off of a screen or a DHO to try to cut off that easy look, well, now you are in an even worse situation than you were before.
Damn, now that I'm thinking about it, Jokic's offensive versatility is crazy too, bro. Yo, he really can run the one if you really want him to, bro. He's a great screener too. Good off ball. Obviously can play the fucking five, and if you need him to be a volume scorer, if you need him to be a go-to bucket, he can be a go-to bucket too. Man, yo, that boy Jokic.
Because now you have a 6'11", 280-pound post demon being defended by a guard, which is going to result in 2 quick, easy points with this hook shot, and oh no, that's actually a lob to Aaron Gordon. Do you understand the conundrum now? And the fact that Jokic just concluded another season with very similar production, efficiency, and overall offensive impact is the reason why I had to make this video. Look, making this video took me a very, very long time, in large part because I didn't want to come across as too premature with this opinion about Nikola Jokic. I not only wanted to see a large sample size, and I do believe 4 years is suffice if we're talking about offensive peaks, but more importantly, the more data, information, and film that I was able to comb through provided more than enough evidence for me to make this case. Because while making this video, there are two things that I didn't want to do. The first being to tear down another all-time great offensive player to prop up Jokic, which I found was not necessary throughout making this video, in large part because Jokic's production, skill, and ability basically speaks for itself. And the second thing I didn't want to do was just overwhelm you with a bunch of numbers, charts, and analytics. This is not a knock to any other NBA content creator. Trust me, I know it's very easy to get a point across by showing a bunch of numbers and charts because it's very eye-grabbing and appealing to a massive audience. But I believe when doing so, you take away the nuances and essence of how great a player is. And personally, I enjoyed the fact that I decided to make the video this way because I do believe it's easier and much more palatable to make the argument that I'm trying to make. Jokic is not going to go down as the greatest scorer in NBA history. However, even if you compare what Jokic just accomplished in the last 4 seasons to other all-time great scoring stretches, it does beg the question how close he is to that marker. Taking into consideration accuracy, efficiency, versatility, and the fact that his scoring production goes up in the postseason, how much value do you really put into those 4 to 5 points that separates Jokic from other all-time greats? And even if you do put a lot of value,
well, it's just at this rate, it is 7 points. So
in that marginal separation, Jokic is undeniably the best passer of anyone in this conversation. And a similar thing can be said about passing. I think Jokic has a much stronger argument to be the best passer in NBA history, but of course his assist numbers don't match up to players like John Stockton and Magic Johnson. However, when you take into consideration the variation of passes, degree of difficulty, and the fact that he doesn't dominate the ball and is able to make reads much more quicker than most players can in NBA history, it does once more beg the question, how much more valuable is that 3 to 4 assist gap between Jokic and other all-time great passers? And even if you are putting that much value in those assists, Jokic is still undeniably the best scorer of anyone in that conversation. And for me, that's the reason why Jokic is the greatest offensive player in NBA history.
I do think this is a great start to, in my opinion, is the bigger theme to this video, which is we have to start having uncomfortable conversations with how good Nikola Jokic is. We have to. I think when it comes to how dominant he's been in this 4-year stretch, the sample size is catching up. This is not just a 2-year thing. This seems like it's about to be something that we're about to watch for the next decade. How good this guy is. And when we're looking at a 4-year stretch where we may be looking at 3 MVPs, the only year he didn't win MVP, you could still argue he should have won MVP. So arguably 4 MVPs in a row, but let's just go off the fact that what the fuck actually happened. 3 MVPs in 4 years, and the 1 year he didn't win MVP, he actually won the championship. We're looking at one of the most efficient volume scorers in NBA history, giving you 26 points a game on ridiculous efficiency, as Low illustrated. We're looking at an elite rebounder on top of that, an elite screener on top of that. And in terms of passing, you can argue that even though he's averaging 9 to 10 assists, that still doesn't do his passing ability justice. Can also stretch the floor as well. You can give him the ball and get you a bucket. In terms of playoff elevation, he elevates in the playoffs. He gets it done. He's not a playoff choker. He's a playoff riser, which is, in my opinion, rarer than what a lot of y'all expect. We have to start having uncomfortable conversations with Nikola Jokic. And it seems like every single year, the arguments against Jokic to discredit his greatness gets more laughable every single year. It just gets funnier every single year what NBA media wants to bring out the bag to discredit what this man is doing. From Kendrick Perkins to Gilbert Arenas to everyone. It just gets funnier. The arguments just get funnier. And I'm just like, damn, what if we just accepted that what we're actually seeing right now is a once-in-a-generational player? And the fact that this dude was drafted in the second round, didn't have much hype, and he's playing for the Denver Nuggets and is getting this shit done. All while simultaneously not being marketable. Jokic is definitely a one-of-a-kind player. Jokic is definitely a one-of-a-kind player.
Most great offensive players normally dominate in one or two areas of offense while doing just enough in other aspects of offense to help supplement their game so they can hide their weaknesses. But see, that's not Nikola Jokic. I truly believe that we are witnessing someone who doesn't have any identifiable flaws offensively, someone who is a jack of all trades and a master of all. This is not your stereotypical dominant scorer that you would force to be a passer, or the all-time great passer who has limitations as a scorer, or the small, crafty offensive weapon that you can overwhelm with length defensively. And this certainly isn't the overly athletic, gifted freak that tends to rely a bit too much on his physical traits. Jokic is the perfect blend of scoring skill that allows him to hit practically every shot that is available to him, in marriage with a feel for the game that makes him a passing savant that honestly just cannot be taught. Add in a level of IQ that makes him always a step ahead, as well as a 6'11", 280-pound frame that practically makes him a mismatch for a majority of teams in the NBA. And you are presented with someone who is not only unguardable, one of the greatest offensive peaks we've ever seen, and I would argue the greatest offensive player in NBA history. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Please let me know what you think about the video in the comment section below.
Yeah, I think great case, definitely a great case for Jokic, and maybe when it's all said and done, I'll change my answer. Because also Jokic is the type of dude that for some reason just keeps on somehow, some way keeps on getting better somehow in seasons where he's already winning MVP. I don't know, bro. I don't know. Not to say that he's better this year than 2022 or anything like that, but I don't know. In terms of this conversation, greatest offensive weapons of all time, I would still say LeBron at 1. It's a toss-up. Just offense, y'all. Just offense. We're not talking about greatness. We're not talking about careers. We're not talking about two-way dominance. Just offense. LeBron would still be 1. At 2 and 3, it's a toss-up to me between Jokic, Curry, and Jordan. And if I had to put a nail in the coffin, I would probably go Jordan, Jokic, Curry. And then after that, I think that's when we include the great scorers who are decent off ball, but not but okay passers, or good passers. I won't say okay passers, but good passers, but not great passers. That's when you start talking about the Kobe's, the Kevin Durant's, maybe even the Kareems in that discussion. Maybe even Luka in that discussion. I don't know. James Harden in that discussion. That's when you start getting into that bag. But yeah, I think that those 4 right there, I'm pretty solid on, unless I'm missing someone. But damn, great video, man. Yo, shout out to Low for the video. Again, links to this video will be in the description down below. Let me know who y'all think the greatest offensive weapon of all time is. I think Jokic definitely has a stronger case than what a lot of y'all think. With that being said, I'm out of here, man. Peace.